Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett, and today we are going to get into the first class for HTML, and this is a HTML basic class. And this entire series of classes is about 5 classes long, and I'll get into what each class teaches. But as far as that goes, let's start weeding people out right now. So for those who are wanting to learn this to get a job in the future, how valuable is this to get in a job? And what I mean by that is, how valuable is it to just knowing this and nothing else to get in a job? The fact is you won't be able to get a job if you only know this one thing. Simple is maybe in the 80s, but today that just won't be the case. The fact is too many people know it, and it's not advanced enough for today's world to just know that one thing. However, you need to know it for the higher end things. Most websites use HTML, and that means that you might have a website that uses HTML for 90% of what it does, but where it makes a lot of money is in the rest of that. So you need to know HTML for the far majority of the site, but the little bits is what you're going to get hired for, and that might be in something like JavaScript or SQL or something else, but it won't be in HTML. So that's something to note, because HTML, it only deals with static information. Basically, if you're looking at something like weather, I don't know, maybe you go to a website and you look at it and it says your area, the weather in your area, and all that. That's not HTML. It's probably built around it, but HTML, it does not have that ability. Two people look at the site, every last thing is going to be the same if you're coding purely with HTML and nothing else. That's something to note. It's very, very static. So with that being said, and most sites, they run HTML, like even sites that are dynamic and everything, they have HTML in the background. I'll show you how to figure that one out pretty quickly if it has HTML. Even WordPress sites have HTML, or most of them do. I'm pretty sure that someone might raise their hand and say no, this one might not. But I can guarantee you, because I dealt with WordPress for years now, WordPress even uses HTML. Or at least most of their sites. Again, I can't guarantee for all. So now that we got that out of the way, what tools will you need for this class? You can use anything you want as far as a text editor, or you can use some other compiler, but I'm going to be using Notepad++. This is a free program, and I'll leave a link down below so you can check it out. But this is a free program, and it's fairly easy to use. Now, why do I use it? Well, let's take a look at this code right here. Well, the thing is on Notepad, it'll all be black, same format and everything else. Very easy to mess up right here. But I can click it and I can see, oh, it starts here, ends here, starts here, ends here, and go down and see if I missed something or something like that. It does for this HTML, it does autocomplete. So I start, like, say for example, I go ahead and start typing out that, and you can see it's trying to autocomplete things. You have that ability. It has those type of abilities, and it's worthwhile noting that. So with that, I'm going to be using that for this particular thing, but feel free to use whatever you want. So another tip I'm going to give you is look at sites and the code it provides. So whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, Udacity, whatever, however you're watching this video, Here's something I want you to do right now, since you are obviously interested into learning HTML. On a blank space outside of the video, outside of anything that's dynamic, right click and go down to inspect. Yours might look different. This is Chrome, so if you don't have Chrome, then I'll suggest getting it. But you know, if you don't want to use it, that's fine. If you go up here, this HTML, especially the Doctype saying HTML, this HTML, that's saying the website is a HTML website. It will end with something like this. So it's very important to note that most sites you run across are HTML sites. WordPress sites, I believe YouTube is, and it's very common to run across that. So it's very common to run across tricks and stuff that you might not have known that you can do on websites. So what you need to do is you just use the inspect. And a cool thing with this is, let's say for example I want to figure out that, I'll find it, depending on the browsers, depending on how much ability you have with this, but I'll find it within here and say, oh, how did they get this to be so big? And I can say, oh, they use header 1, which I get into a later video what that is. But I can see that that's a header 1 and not some weird other trick. I can go here and I can see, oh, they are using the image from their own web server and not from some website based on this thing. I could see these tricks, and by the way, I actually show you how to do this in the actual classes. And if you want to look at the entirety, just go look at a page source and you can see here in the entirety. So it's fairly simple and makes it easier to deal with. But I tend to like the inspect on things because you can actually see the exacts on what does what, and that way you can actually have a better understanding on how something is made. And some examples, and you're probably, if you go to Notepad++, I can see a ton of examples I'm going to be showing you out through these classes. So something to note. Now, as far as complementary languages to know, whether you're studying side by side or one after another, I would advise you to, after you understand HTML, try to learn about CSS. Try to learn about JavaScript. Those are the two major ones I would tell you, hands down. Learn about CSS first, but try to learn about CSS and try to learn about JavaScript. Those are the two major ones that complement someone who's trying to learn about web development or web application development. It's fairly important for this because there is a lot of money into this, and these topics are very, very simple. These classes I'm going to be covering is very short. So with that being in mind, I hope that you enjoy these videos, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope you have a great day, and feel free to ask questions and whatnot. Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett, and today we are going to get into another HTML coding class. In this one, I'm going to show you how to start coding in HTML. We're going to get into the very basics, so note that. But as far as that goes, let's jump on in. Now, first things first, on your computer, find a place where you want to make files. So for me, I just made an entire folder and just label it HTML. And just find a place that you want to put all your files for your new websites, and I hope that you join me on this. So with this in mind, what you need to do is go ahead and make a text file, And simple as that. And we can rename this whatever we want. I'm not really going to focus on that, but if you already downloaded and installed Notepad++, go ahead and edit with Notepad++, or edit it with whatever you want. So first things first is we're going to save this as a HTML page. This is fairly important. What you need to do is go to Save As, and then have that as all, if it does have an all, and then go to the end of the text document and type in .html. Now, before I continue and save this, I want to mention that all HTML web pages, for the file wise, it requires .html or .htm. That's fairly important. It needs to be .html or .html or HTM. The step before here, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like where you have .txt, and that's a text file, simple text file. For HTML, it requires HTML or HTM. We're just going to do HTML because that's the more common to not in here. And just press save. Now, as far as the naming scheme, this would not work that well in a regular environment. The reason why is in order to go to a website and have something as your home page, it needs to be, for this, the actual name of it needs to be default or index. It's fairly important to note this. So, for example, if I just want to make a random website on my computer and I can control it from here. So, for example, where I have a random website that I'm, working around, playing around with, what I can do is I can do that and it will work just fine. I can move around and do whatever. And it works just fine, like right here where I was doing one for the JavaScript stuff. But for online, for the home page, this would actually have to be named default or index, but it needs to be a HTML file. So when they're saving it for a home page, what would end up happening is let's go back up to all files or all types, default.html or index. The reason for this is just simply that web servers are hard coded to look for either default or index file for the home page. So this is just something very basic, very easy to deal with if you understand that little bit. But the other pages, they could be named whatever. Now here's something that is also important to note with the naming scheme is you may notice on any thing that you go to, it will say, so for example, with this new text document, you have capital letters, lowercase letters, and stuff like that, and even capital letters midway through. Well, here's the thing. If you're on a Windows server, this, no matter how you spell it, no matter how you capitalize it or lowercase it, the spelling, obviously, like how you actually spell new text document, or for in this case, default or index or what it may be, obviously that's very important to itself. but whether it's capital or lowercase, it does not matter. It considers it all the same file. However, on Linux, this is fairly important, it's considered as different files. And it's best to, if you're on pretty much anything, to just lowercase all your stuff if possible. In some programming languages, it doesn't allow you to do that, or in some compilers, it doesn't allow you to do that with some things. However, overall, if available, it's best to just leave things lowercase if and when possible. That way, less problems arise, especially if you're using something like Linux, a Linux web server. Now, why is this important? Well, basically, what happens is if you have something on your web server that's maybe a picture or a movie or whatever it may be, if it is on Linux, the web server that is on Linux, and you'd say, I want to have this given picture pic.png. If in the code you capitalized it, the P for the pic, and in the actual file itself it's lowercase, there's extremely high chance, unless something's changed or depending on the type of version or whatever it may be, overall it will fail. On Windows it shouldn't, but it's for best practices to lowercase everything as far as the code goes, as far as when you have it searching for something or the naming scheme. So now we're finally getting into coding. So as far as one thing you may notice in many websites is they have this Doctype. This goes with HTML5, and basically before you had to say the version, whatever, don't worry about that. For HTML5, and I would believe going onward, obviously there's no HTML6 or any further thing, so I can't say for 100% on this, but you're going to have something like this. Well, basically what this does is it says that's HTML, and that's all that's needed. It tells the Doctype. So going into a actual browser to show you what I mean by this with Doctype is this is a document, and if you go into inspect in most pages, it'll say something like this with Doctype HTML. It's just basically telling the browser what it is. That's just something to note. I might get into this in future videos on YouTube, but as far as you need to know, just make sure that says the Doctype is HTML. For HTML5, you don't have to specify version or anything like that. Now, as far as the actual HTML page, it's this, the start of the HTML page will have that, and then we have a closer. The thing to note is all of the closer for syntax wise is going to have a slash, whereas the opener is just simply the carets as seen there. So what we have here is the head, and it's just an area that you put all the relevant information for the rest of the page. So one of the things that is common is the title, and going into another, like we can actually save this, and I can show you what the title does. Is if we open up this, we can get the test right here, and that's what the title is. So for example, right here, I didn't change the actual title. Basically it's just test. And by the way, real quick, so you don't have to write down the code, one great place that you can go, and I'll have this link down below, is you can go to this site. It's HTML validator. Just pretty much go to Google and look it up, and just go down to text field, and you can just copy and paste this and to your document, and that way you don't have to remember, oh, I forgot to buy the or something like that. So it'll automatically be there. Just remember to change test and anything else that you want. So that's just something to note. But the title is basically we're up there on, for example, if we're looking at Facebook, you'll say something like Facebook up there or something of that nature. That's basically where the title is. In fact, let me change that to ABC 123. Let's just change it to ABC and save that. It should have saved it, and as you see here, it changed that to ABC. So the most common thing, and this is a best practice type of thing, is have the title reflect. If the person's on the home page, have the title be the actual website. So for example, if you're running something like Facebook or something like that, you want the title to say Facebook or whatever your site's name is. But then if you're going to have the individual go to maybe you're a news site, or you're having a person look at some particular thing, what ends up happening is you can actually go ahead and, let me show you with the YouTube stuff, is you can go ahead and take a look at this up here where it says dashboard and the thing saying that's YouTube, but it's very common for having like news sites and whatever where they just post the title of the article in the actual title portion of the site itself for that page. So everything that would be in the head other than title is stuff like JavaScript, stuff like that. But then we have the body itself. The body, what that is what the user sees. So one thing that we can actually write is put normal text. So for example, this is cool, and then go down and we can actually go up and see in here. Cool thing with Windows 10 and I think previous version of Windows, we have a preview of what the website will look like. May not have the functionality, whatever, but it's a preview. And right in that area, we just got that text. Simple as that. So we can add whatever we want right there, and as long as it's saved in whatever, goes right there. So as far as that goes, the thing to note is the actual body itself. It is what the user is going to see, what you're what you're going to see on the actual site itself. Probably what you're going to interact with too. So as far as dealing with looks and whatever, let's get into that. If you go into the body and write out the code, this is one reason why I like Notepad++ is it does autocomplete stuff if available and if it knows it. Whereas if you're just doing normal Notepad, you kind of are stuck. So in this case, we're going to make the heading, and you have if we put in the opening and just start typing, it'll try to autocomplete. For heading, we have, and this is how you write is H1. So there's 1 through 6. The difference is 1 is the biggest, so we're going to do H1 and do a close on that. And let's say that this is H1. And then we're going to do H6. this is H6. I might actually throw a H3 so you can actually see what a H3 is. Oops. And let's just throw in H3 so you can get an idea what this stuff looks like. Alright, and let's save that. And as you see here, H1 is the biggest. This would be considered to most to be like the title of the page or a title of an article or something like that. And then we get smaller and smaller and smaller, where this is almost like normal text, or smaller than normal text, but bold very thickly. So the thing to note here is you can actually change how things look by using code. Note that all we change is which heading we use, whether it being H1 being the first, H3 being the middle, or H6 being the last. But again, the biggest is going to be the first, which H1 or heading 1, and the smallest you're going to get is H6 or heading 6. It's very important to note this as you're designing the page and making the overall page. So what about normal text? So this is great in all the knowing the heading. This is great in all. I'm going to take out these two. So, well, actually, let's just keep them for example. But for normal text, what we want to do is do a P, a simple P. Let's open it and say this is normal text, and then just do a closing P. And if we save this, you can see that the normal text is bigger than H6, about the same size as H3, maybe a little bit smaller, but you can tell that there's a massive difference. It's basically the heading, it's bold, and there's a little bit of a difference in the look. So as far as news articles and stuff like that, you might notice that they use something around maybe H1, maybe H2, heading 1, heading 2, depending on the news site and what type of formats they're going for. But the normal text, some politicians slept with someone else, that is going to be in normal text. That's going to be in the paragraph text. It's very important to note that. Keep in mind this stuff was made way back when, and it's still used today. Now, before I forget, the thing I want to note is, let's say for some people, I can easily see this happening, is you're writing a paragraph, or you might want to write the entire article. Fine. Well, you might do something like this, and here is more text, so like maybe a second paragraph or something like that. Well, what's going to end up happening is it's just going to add it on to that. So to solve that, so what you got to do is do another, and it throws it right below. So we can do the second line is something like this. Let's close that off, and looking at that, so you can see it's right below. So if you want to write multiple paragraphs, or want to have like a do something like an enter or something like that, it will look something like this, where you'll separate out with the paragraphs. Keep in mind, with paragraphs, normal paragraphs, when you're writing a paper, you're not going to have to press enter somewhere in the middle of that paragraph. A teacher will, if you're in school, will grade you badly, or your boss will fire you for that, or at least fuss at you for that. But the end of the paragraph, so the start of the paragraph will be here, the end of the paragraph is here. That's how you need to treat this as far as the paragraph text. So whenever you see this, if you want to have some additional text right below it, you needed to open up an error paragraph and write whatever text you want. So what happens if you want to align something center, right, left, whatever? And this is useful if you're maybe writing a scientific paper and just doing all in HTML for some reason or whatever it may be, or making a website where people can upload their scientific paper, but the title of it and all that stuff's normally center on it, so it kind of looks normal and consistent between all papers to make it easier for the viewer. Well, what would end up happening is within the opener of anything, so for example with the paragraph or header, you would do a align equals, and then if you want it center, you just say center. If you want it right, you say right. You can do align left, but I don't personally because it should automatically align. But if you want to guarantee it left for some weird reason, there's something pulling it more to the center or whatever, then that would technically fix it. But again, realistically, it's just going to align left anyway, so it's kind of a waste doing that. So, but it's cool. So as far as that goes, so lastly, what I'm going to show is the actual format on how things look. And a thing to note is, so I had one extra them, sorry about that. To add into here, I want to mention that this is what a comment looks like. To open a comment, you need to have that as far as the opener. The closure will look like that. I expect that you already know the benefits of having a comment, whatever. But a thing to note within this comment is this is what you'll need to get whatever you want. So for example, I want normal to be bold, as you see here. And if let's actually just open that up. As you see here where it's bolded. Well, I want that to be bold, and as far as that goes, I'll just put the B. But if I want to do like important text or italicize or whatever it may be, I can actually do that. It's right there. This is fairly basic stuff, but go ahead and try this, and you can look up the formats for this. But in the description, if you're on YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and paste this into here. If you're on Udemy, if there's enough room in the description, I'm going to paste that in, so you can actually go ahead and use it if you want. But as far as that goes, this is just how to get the overall basic layout, the font, and a few other things, and how to get started into here. As far as that goes, hope you have a great day. Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett, and today we are doing another HTML class, and this is class 3, and let's just jump on into it, into the code itself. Now, as far as this goes, I'm getting into the list, and you can actually see right here what we're going to be focusing on. And what we have is, at this time up here, is two different lists, orderless and unorderless. So for example, if I wanted to do something, a list of items, so it might say desk, chair, TV, and maybe it's a grocery list or whatever it may be, and I have a order list, which is the numbers. Basically what happens here is, let's go ahead and open up this. We have the number and then whatever item, and then with the unordered list, it has the bulletin points, the little period looking things, and then the actual stuff. So that's just something to know. It's that type of list. It's fairly simple. Notes with the actual thing, and for those of you who didn't catch in my previous class, is I am starting to comment things on here, so it makes it easier for you. But just note that this is the order list. It opens up as OL, order list, and it closes with OL. With the unordered list, it's UL and closes with UL. Note that both the ordered list and unordered actually has the same in the middle as far as LI, and that's just something to note. Note that, so the first thing on this is it's at the top, the second and second place, and goes down from there. So note that. So now, what about tables? This is a very common thing that's used, and I'm just using this as an example. So what we made here is a multiplication table right here. 1 times 1 is 1, and goes down the line, and for the multiplications, something you probably had to go through when you were in school. How would you make a table to show information or whatever it may be? Well, what it takes is the following code. Is you have to define the table itself, and you don't have to have a border. So what happens if you don't? Just taking a look at it, it just gets rid of the border all entirely. But this is fairly important. It keeps it in that. Now I want to point something out. So let's go ahead and bring that back, and let's get rid of that. Just want to point something out. You can do some interesting things if you get rid of the table part of this code. But with this being said, it's best to have it in there. Now, as far as the border goes, all the border does is put a border around it, and that way you can actually see the individual blocks. Because yes, this is only just a handful of blocks, but let's say that the information in it is vast, maybe a lot of text, a lot of colors, or something else that goes in play, but it's very fast. Well, you need to be able to separate them up between each, and that way the person can actually understand them, and that's where the border comes in. You can go and choose any size border you really want. So like right here, 9, and you can see that it gives a nice thick border, but at least do 1, and it will just make things easier. So for the row, so we got the row. What we have here is TR is the opening and the closing for TR. So TR is table row, very important. And then the actual blocks itself, you have the TD, and obviously open and close. In the middle of the block, that's where you place the actual what information you want there. So in this case, there's 0, 0, 0, and in this case, multiplication tables don't have 0 on them. So with this, 1 and higher is what's needed, so that's why that's zeroed out. So it's relative to the information I'm trying to give in that little bit. So with that, whenever you're making an actual block, is TD. When you're making a row, is TR. And let's say, for example, if I messed up and took this out all entirely. So we got one row that is short. That's all that will happen, is it will actually go ahead and take that one row out. Again, that's all that will happen. Or not row, but the one block out. That's all that will happen, is it will just take that one block out. So it won't really mess things up that massively, but it is something worth noting if you're going to be dealing with this stuff. So let's go ahead and put that back in there, and that way it fixes itself. So to keep it easy, I'm just keeping this video short, and next one we're going to get a little bit more advanced things. But as far as that goes, if you've got any questions, let me know, and I'll see you next video, and I hope you have a great day. Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett, and today we're going to get into another HTML class, and this one we're going to get into images. Images can easily make or break your day when it comes to sizes and stuff like that. So with that, I'm going to spend this entire class on images only. So let's jump on in. Now, as far as things goes, we're going to be using the previous code as before. I already added the code that was needed for this. But basically what happens here is I want to put a image within the website that we've been working on. Great. So how do I do it? Well, what I do is I put in the img saying I want an image, and src is source. So okay, where do we find the image? And then it finds the image here. So the image is on the website folder, but the documents, the HTML file, is in the HTML folder, right? So it will actually have to go to the website to pull up the image that's wanted. So in order to do this, what we are going to do is we need a ... Now, if the image was in the same folder as this, what would end up happening is it would simply just need the you don't need a ... You need a ... per how many goes back. So say for example, if the image was in Dropbox, the folder Dropbox, and so we have to go from here to the website to Dropbox. So website and Dropbox is higher than HTML folder. So it takes two ... It gets very hairy very quickly, and this is why it's very important to make your system as efficient as possible. But this is how you get to the image itself to show it. Now you can also get images offline. So for example, what I have here is, let's pull this up, is here's the image that we're going with, that is on the website folder, and here's the image from here. It grabbed it from this page itself. So what happens here is we're telling it the source is a website, and instead of just saying that, oh, it's JPEG or PNG or whatever it may be, we're saying it's a website, and it just goes to the website and grabs it from there. Simple as that. So the thing to note here, though, is what happens if you want it centered or right or whatever it may be. You might think that, well, like before, like the headers and like the paragraphs and stuff like that, you'll put it within inside of it, which is fine. I understand why you would think that, but that's not what you do. You need to actually surround it by a paragraph. So what happens here is we make a paragraph, and we do a line, and for this case I'd say center, and that's where we got the center right there. And then we close it off after we're done with the image. So it's something important to note into itself. I want to mention something because I didn't cover this in the previous video, but we have a break. So let's show you what it looks like. Let's go back to here, and let's actually take out this alignment real quick so you can actually see what it looks like. And as you see here, there's a little bit of space, and that's caused by the break. So now let's go ahead and take out that break, can go back in here and you can see it's a lot less space. So that's something important to note. I forgot to mention it in previous videos that you can have a break, so note that. But anyways, going back into here, what we can do is we can go ahead and kill off that and add this to here. So now I forgot to take off that. Sorry about that. So now the images are right next to each other, right there. So we also can do something like that, where we can actually align images right next to one another by having this paragraph. Is what we can do is say paragraph and then align center or right or whatever it may be. And we can put our images within there. So the images obviously on the web server, or in this case my computer, and some foreign site, which would be my site, but still it's not on the web server, or at least in this case it's not on my computer, so it's considered as foreign. So with that being said, what we have is a grabbing images. Now you might ask, all right, so if I don't know, the thing is on my C drive or somewhere on some weird place, and I need to get the image. Why don't I just go through the online method like I showed you with this particular image? Reason why you wouldn't do that is simply because if you do that, it adds latency. So in order for this image to load up, it has to hunt it through the internet. So instead of going within its own internal system, it has to go do a request outside of the system, and the request comes back. It gets the image, it puts it there, it downloads it to the person's page. So instead of it just coming directly from the web server itself, it comes from the same place, but the request method, it goes through some roundabout method that takes a lot longer. So it's like, say, for example, I want to give you a message. Fine, I can do that. Or I can still give you a message, but instead of giving it to you, I give it to, say, your parent or a spouse or whatever it may be, and they give it to you. It takes longer for that method than just hand it directly to you when you're right in front of me. So that's something to note. It is possible. I'm not knocking it completely, because it can be very frustrating, but at the same time, it's frowned upon. So that's something to note into itself. Now, something that I didn't cover is what happens if it's in a subfolder. So for example, there's a folder within here, and the images in the subfolder. I got an example right here and this is on one of the buttons here, is basically this file that we're looking at is right here on the website folder, and it's saying that when the person clicks on the button, take them to into this particular HTML file. So it has to say, so with this particular one, it's on the website folder, and it's telling the person, telling the system that it should go through the JavaScript folder in this case, and then hunt for the given file. So the same thing applies here. Is, let's say for example, if there's a subfolder in here and the image is on the subfolder, you basically just put the subfolder's name fully, and then and this. So I say, for example, if we're in Dropbox we would put the same thing right there. So hopefully that makes sense. Anyways, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next video. Hello everybody, my name is Craig Bennett, and today we're going to get into the last HTML class, and congratulations for making it all the way through. Now, as far as this one goes, we are going to get into hyperlinks. So we're going to get into how to hyperlink text and also how to hyperlink images. So maybe if you're trying to sell a product or trying to get someone to advertise your site or whatever it may be, how do you go about it in this format with static pages with HTML? Now, one thing I want to mention is I'm going to show you the right method of doing things, but I'm going to mention there is a wrong method of doing things. So just keep that in mind while we're going through here. The code that we're using is the same as before, and I already got it written out, so we don't have to worry about me writing it while we're going through. But basically, to open up a hyperlink, what we need to do is open up with an A and then put in href equals. And the thing that you might have seen in my previous videos is where we're using a double quotation. You can use a single quotation and get the same thing as long as you start or end it, start and end it with the same type of quotation. It will work. So note that. Some people like to use single quotations. Some people like to use double quotations. So just note. And you can even have something like right here where you use a single quotation and then a double quotation on the same line. So that's possible as long as anything between the quotations, it's there, and on both sides of whatever's in between is the same type of quotations, being single or double quotation. Just want to mention that real quick, in case if you run across some websites and you're checking out their code and trying to figure out why is there single versus where I was teaching it double. So as far as this goes, basically what we have here is the person, they click on a B, which is going to be this. It will take them to the following website. Now, you might say, okay, that's great. I'm going to be doing a, product review or what it may be, but I don't want the person to leave my site. I want the person to stay on my site so they keep browsing and whatever it may be. And I can have advertisers doing their things in the background, so it helps with the finances. Well, what you need to do is this with target equals underscore blank, and that actually forces it to open up in a new tab or new window, depending on the version of browser you're going with. Probably just more or less a new tab. So with that, you can keep the person at your site, and just do a new tab right there. Now, you might not want to do this. I'm going to show you something later on something that you might not want to have a new tab to open. But with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump on in. So if we scroll on down and we have the B, note that when I hover over it on the bottom left, it gives us the websites. This is the browser telling us what websites what. So we go ahead and select that, and it opens it up on a new tab. Now, what we can do is something like this, where we have a text. You might see this in many articles or many other things, where someone's writing a bunch of text. In the middle of it's going to have a hyperlink. Like, so maybe some review on the new Samsung phone or an Apple phone or whatever it may be, and they'll put the name of the phone and it will be hyperlinked to the product page. Well, how that is happening is basically you have a paragraph, and then what you do is you have the person type in the only the part that they want to be hyperlinked. So like before, we start the hyperlink portion with a and that, and instead of in the middle being the entire text, we just put the part that we want hyperlinked, and we can even close it off and continue writing as long as we close off the paragraph tab, as we've seen there. So an example with that is going on into here is if we select that, it does the exact same thing. So with that, let's go into the last one. What happens if you want the individual to, instead of going to a different website altogether? So for example, I'm reviewing a product for whatever, and I'll just have them go to Amazon to buy it, and there'll be like affiliate link or something like that. What happens instead of doing that? I just want them to go from, I don't know, my home page to an about page or to some other page. Well, it's the same thing as we did before with the images. What happens here is in the hyperlink area, in the quotation area, is if the HTML file is within the same folder, then you just put in the file name and .html. However, if it's one up, so for example, I'm having this one, it goes to the website and then tries to find home.html on that. It goes you need a dot dash for that. And again, like before, in case you missed it, let's say for example, if it's in Dropbox, the HTML file, what I'll need is a dot dash for that, another dot dash for that. So for each one that you're going up, you need a dot dash. It's pretty important. But what happens if it's a subfolder? So for example, there's a folder within here and it's going further down, which happens all the time. Well, it's like before, is what you do is you put a folder name in slash and then whatever the HTML file is named and then .html. So it's fairly simple in itself. So with this, let's go ahead and run this. And what we want to do is right here, and it'll open up a new tab. So okay, now we're opening up new tabs even though we're on the same site. And okay, the person wants to go to the about page, and it's going to open up a new tab. That makes no sense, and that's actually bad. Because okay, the person goes from an about page to whatever page, and each page you go to is going to open up a new tab because you're using the target. You're using the target equals blank. So what we need to do is simply take that out. Let's save that. Let's go back to here and refresh that page. And what we want to do is now it's going directly there on that same window. It's fairly important to realize that you can do stuff like that. Now, one thing that you might want to do is hyperlink images. So what you need to do is you start a hyperlink and everything like up here, but in the middle, instead of we putting a B right there, we need to put the image itself right there. Everything else is the same. So let's go ahead and jump on in, and select that. It just opens that up. So basically, it's this, except for we put put the image in the middle instead of B. So it's fairly easy in that aspect. So as far as that goes, that's pretty much about it. Feel free to check out the code and whatever, and feel free to copy and mess around with it and whatever. And keep in mind that HTML is the basic. It's the basic level. Most websites use HTML. Now you might have a website builder that builds the website for you. Oh, you want to put the image right here, your text right here, the advertisements over here, and whatever it may be, and you may be able to move it around like you want. But it's building the HTML code for you. The HTML is still being used. It's fairly important, and that's something that you need to realize when you get into enterprise world, where you're not going to have these builders. You have to build stuff yourself or fix it in many cases. So with that being said, what you need to keep in mind with this is HTML, as I said from start, it's static. It's not some login whatever. It's not something that if one person can go to the page and another person can go to the page and they both see something different, even small, might be a color, might be something else, then something else is in play. Something else caused that. So just note that HTML is very, very basic. It's a lot of memorization, and Google is your friend on this one. There is no shame in going to someone's site. Like, say for example, if we go, just play shortcut right here, and if we go to my site, if we go and do a inspect, there is no shame in going in here. And by the way, this is a WordPress site, so you might say, well, I'm going with WordPress. Guess what? This site is built on WordPress, and it's built the HTML for me. So there's no shame on going on here and actually go here and take a look at, remember, body is what you're seeing. Head is things that will be used in the page itself. So there's no shame in going in here and taking a look at how things are done and applying it to your own website, applying it to your company's website, applying it to your own stuff. There's no shame with that. It's very common. This is very public, so note that. But as far as that goes, if you have any questions, anything else, feel free to hit me up on YouTube or by email, and I'll try to answer as quickly as possible. Feel free to leave a like and whatever. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Udemy, then feel free to check out my other videos, and also check out my YouTube channel. I got plenty of material on there, and check out the quizzes that I left for you on there to help you out. Now, as far as things goes, check out my other videos on coding and whatever, and feel free to let me know what you want me to cover in the future, and I'll see you in the next videos, hopefully soon.